Let's begin this way. The newly created Consolidated Bank Ghana Limited officially opened for business some 2 hours ago, having taken over the 5 collapsed local banks. Even before these banks will officially start work, customers of the now insolvent banks have been trooping to the various branches to make withdrawals. We're live at these banks and we'll be bringing you updates from some of its branches in Accra as well as Kumasi. Are there panic withdrawals as projected by some banking experts? We'll bring you that details shortly as well. But how and why did these local banks get to this place? Could the rush to attain banking status be a contributory factor to the early collapse of some of these indigenous banks? Well, that's the observation of the CEO of Delex Finance, Ken Thompson. Ken Thompson says that the latest development in the banking sector should teach small financial institutions to build their firms step by step and not try to cut corners.
Important thing is making sure that our institutions, operate in a way that is proper. That's the most important thing. We must also be conscious of the fact that we need foreign direct investment. That's important. But we must also promote a national agenda. So I will not support a local institution that is not doing the wrong thing. I will support the Bank of Ghana if it promotes a national agenda, but also promotes foreign direct investment. That's the most important thing. Because ultimately, if the financial system collapses and the whole country goes down, it's got nothing to do with whether it's local or foreign. It's that the system has collapsed. That's the most important thing.
And some of these financial institutions, for instance, PIED was doing very well in the microfinance space. Did it jump the gun? Are we seeing the tendency where most of these microfinance companies want to rush to become a bank all of a sudden? Is that what we are seeing?
PIED appeared to be doing very well in the microfinance space. I don't know what it was doing, but there was some sudden desire by financial institutions to become banks. Let me put on record that Delex has I have no intention of becoming a bank. We'll probably become a bigger financial institution, but not in the way that you see now. But then there was some push to become, for finance companies to become banks. The whole strategy at that time was that they could do larger transactions. Those transactions were all government business, were all government transactions, and so they could make more money. But of course, over the last few years, the government itself has been under pressure. The government is the biggest contractor, is the biggest lender, is the biggest borrower, is the biggest contractor, biggest employer. So now the government business is contracted. Those banks were bound to suffer because the business model was based on lending, doing business with government. So those was going to suffer. Why they did it, I don't know.
CEO of Delex Finance company there. Meanwhile, pressure seems to be mounting on the Bank of Ghana to crack the whip on persons from its banking supervision department who may have contributed to the 5 commercial banks' licenses being revoked. 3 of the 5 struggling banks, sovereign, beige and construction banks who had their licenses revoked, are said to have used fictitious, non-existent capital and false pretense to obtain the license. There are equally calls for top managers of the collapsed banks to be investigated. Now, whilst the Finance Minister Ken Oforiatta says he is optimistic that the new Bank of Ghana measures to deal with the troubled banks will strengthen the sector, the minority in Parliament says it will soon drag him before the House to answer questions. The minority spokesperson on finance, Keselato Forson, says Parliament is set to drag the Finance Minister and the Governor of the Bank of Ghana before the House over the collapse of these banks. He was speaking to Raymond Akwa on Afrans, where the ranking member on the Finance Committee also said that the two ought to answer why the state is putting a whopping $7 billion into fixing the problems created by those banks.
Prior to the media review, we engaged the governor, and let me say that it was a very interesting conversation. We had a very frank discussion with the governor on some of this issue.
Did he give specific information that you are requesting?
He gave us some basic information relating to the collapse of the 2 banks, and then the approval they gave for the purchase and assumption transaction for GCB. So we asked some questions. They failed to give us some detail as to Unibank and the 4 banks that has just been collapsed. They failed to give us that information. We probed further because obviously we've heard others in the grapevine. In fact, today I'm even hearing that if care is not taken, they will, in the coming days or coming months, they will have no choice than to announce some few banks also going to the same line. Whether they will have to create another special purpose vehicle and give it to them, or they will join this Consolidated Bank of Ghana, Ghana Limited. It's another matter.
I see.
It's another matter. So we engage them. In fact, we've engaged the Finance Minister, the Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta, on some of these issues. The only difficulty is when you meet them and you ask for questions, the answers doesn't come as you would like it to come, because I believe that in discussions like this, we all have a responsibility to engage in a very frank discussion, frank conversations for us to know what exactly is wrong with the financial sector.
Mindful of what has just happened, would you be willing to invite them and call them back in?
It's inevitable. I'm going to make the request through the chairman of the Finance Committee right from here, and then I know he's someone who has worked at the Central Bank before, and he will be also interested in the matter. So I strongly believe that in the coming days, the Finance Committee of Parliament will be engaging the Governor of the Bank of Ghana and the Finance Minister for us to deliberate on issues that we are hearing today.
Kesalato Forson speaks for the minority when it comes to finance. Now, the Bank of Ghana is saying it will forward its findings on operations of the 5 collapsed banks to the appropriate state authorities for further action. This is in response to several calls for prosecution of the shareholders and the directors of those banks who have, of course, been cited by the Central Bank for poor corporate governance practices. Deputy Governor of the bank, Elsie Awaji, spoke to Daniel Dazi earlier on the Super Morning Show this morning.
Well, we have said that we will look at what is available to us in our armory, our regulatory armory. We may have administrative powers to declare persons no longer fit and proper to do business in the banking sector. We would, to the extent that we have appointed a receiver, we would expect that they would pursue any recoveries that they can pursue within the court system or any other means that are lawfully allowed. We would also be able to pass on all the findings of our investigation so far to the appropriate state agencies that are mandated to investigate and to prosecute if warranted. So what we know is that there is a lot of wrongdoing on the part of individuals that contributed to the collapse of these companies, and we will not stop at revoking their licenses. We would ensure that we pass on to the appropriate quarters what needs to be followed up through, and we will be judgment.
You said you are passing on these documents of investigations done so far. When is this handing over being done? Who are you handing them over to?
Well, that's still work that's ongoing. Like I said, we've just appointed a receiver yesterday in the person of Mr. Nia Manodoju. We're going to be working with them so that they can pursue all the civil options that are civil law options available to them, going to court and all of that. They would also take steps to report to the appropriate quarters, guided by, the findings of all the reports we have so far, so that, the appropriate agencies take up these matters. When we're going to do that? As soon as possible.
Elsie Awaji is the Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana. So you've heard what she had to say. That is the response from the Bank of Ghana, the official response from the Bank of Ghana. Does it give you any comfort as a customer of these banks or as a business person? When I return from this quick break, I have business persons and a finance expert joining me for that discussion. Do stay. You're welcome back to the show. Many thanks for staying with us. As I indicated, I have 2 strong men. They've just described themselves as handsome to me behind the scenes. But anyway, I have 2 men here. Amate Amate Enim is a finance expert with the Policy Initiative for Economic Development. So you're welcome. I also have here Dr. Joseph Obeng, who is the president of the Ghana Union of Traders Association. So you're welcome.
Thank you.
It's good to see you once again. Not long ago, we're talking about VAT. But what are the ripple effects of these actions that have been taken by the Bank of Ghana? Will this trigger panic withdrawal as projected? Are people losing confidence in the local banking sector? We have been finding out from people on the street. Hear what they have to say, and then when we come back to the studio, we'll have a chat.
Yes, I do, because I've been working with them for many years. So I don't think if there is any challenge now, that this is the time for us to wait and see what the outcome will be.
No, I don't. Simply because it's not the first time the central bank or Bank of Ghana is taking over the local banks. Just quite recently, about 3-4 months, we heard of the central bank taking over UT Bank and Capital Bank. And then they told us they were going to put in measures to, inject other local banks to shoot up. What happened? And these ones too are taking over. So invariable, there is no confidence.
Yes, I have confidence in the local banks. Now they have identified their weaknesses. So for them coming together, they're able to do something strong.
Well, due to the emergence of mobile money, I don't, save my monies in the banks any longer, because there was this time I was saving at Stanbic Bank, and every first quarter the deductions I get, I think it's quite unbearable. So I just decided to ignore the banking sector, save my monies in the bank, and then preferably going in for the mobile money.
So you've heard them. I actually like this gentleman. His position is very simple and straightforward. There's mobile money. I'm not keeping my money in the bank, which is another thing that creates a platform for discussion about getting this mobile money sector. People who like to keep their money in mobile money into banking regulation, the banking regulation system, but that's another debate for another time. Gentlemen, let me welcome you once again and find out let me start with you, Guta. Most of your members, I'm sure, bank with these organizations. I don't know, how did this action, the announcement that the Bank of Ghana made yesterday, come to you and your members?
Yeah, it's not interesting. Coming on the heels of KDM and Sunyane, BK, and then Peram of old, and now mainstream banks being seen, something of even criminality on it is a source of worry. And so, because it's about the security. Somebody was talking about being comfortable even saving with the mobile money and all that. Why is he saying so? He's talking so about security. He
doesn't have enough confidence in the banking sector.
If you see the number of people who are now even investing at men's gold and all that, it will tell you how the drift is going. So I think we need a serious and conscious effort. I believe there's an institutional defect, because how did this come in the first place? And how long have we seen this thing going on? Because if you look at the figures involved, just being taken by individuals at the expense of those of us who are saving there, it's just so grievous.
I'll come for your response on how the Bank of Ghana is responding to the calls for prosecution of the directors and so forth. But Ms. Enim, let me come to you and find out from you whether or not you've done any analysis about how the sort of effects that this will have. So far, we've listened to some people, and our reporters who have been to the places, been to these former banks, the premises, are reporting that business is business as usual. You have customers coming. In fact, there was somebody who even was going to make a deposit. So one would have thought that this will trigger panic withdrawals. But it looks as if people are quite relaxed about it. People seem to be okay.
Yes. I think it's about the communication put out there by the BOG. Once people realize that it's the BOG who is behind the new banks, or it's the Bank of Ghana that is taking over the new banks, that kind of assurance is there, because we know that Bank of Ghana is the mother bank for all the commercial banks, or for, so to say, the bank of last resort. So once it's the Bank of Ghana that is speaking and giving them that assurance, it was based on that you realize that a lot of people are cool and they are calm and go about their businesses. But I think we need to, as Doug just said, we need to look at the systemic arrangement. in terms of how the regulator supervises these commercial banks. Because today, people may have confidence, okay, because they realize that BOG is beyond. But if the trend continues, it will get to a point that people will find very reluctant to do business with the banks. And you see, if you take any economy into consideration, the very moment the financial sector is sick, it affects the total performance of the national economy, because the financial sector becomes the heart of the national economy. So once people confidence in the financial sector diminishes, what it means is that it's going to affect even government's ability to mobilize resources to undertake development projects by way of issuing domestic bonds and then the like, or treasury bill to borrow on a short-term basis. So the financial sector is a very critical area that we need to look at it and ensure that we put in systems and mechanisms that will not allow political manipulation and interference. And professionalism should be the order of the day. So it is very critical. So today, I'm so happy that people are responding to it positively, because Bank of Ghana is speaking, and we have trust and confidence in the Bank of Ghana. But if we allow this trend to continue, it will get to a time that the confidence that the people have in BOG, once it diminishes, then I'm sorry, it will find it very difficult. If you recall, the gentleman who just spoke prior to the discussion said that he prefers saving his money with the mobile the mobile money system and mechanisms. So the effect is quite mild. We've not seen so much people reacting negatively to the situation. But I will advise that going forward, we need to put in mechanisms to ensure that certain...
Which was what I was coming to you next on. What are these mechanisms that you talk about? Exactly what can the Bank of Ghana do? Now, the Bank of Ghana, we've seen the change in leadership of the Bank of Ghana over the years. People have said that that could be a contributing factor, because you have a particular Bank of Ghana, which people would associate with a certain party in power at the time. And so people are saying that, well, you have this Bank of Ghana governor who approved certain transactions or approved for certain, gave certain approvals, and then immediately they are removed. Then you have another set that comes to then conduct the review that the Bank of Ghana is saying. I mean, how does this all, stand out to you? What is it that you see? And speaking of mechanisms that should be put in place, what are these? What are the suggestions on the table?
All right, thank you, my dear. You see, there's a distinction between professionalism and then politics. Per our constitution, our democratic arrangement, okay, it's the president that appoints the governor of the BOG, right? But once you've been appointed, you should know that you are working as a professional. And once you leave office, whatever decision that you take, it will follow you. Right, now the former governor is not there, and then what you are hearing, if it's anything to go by, then it means there's a serious indictment on the professionalism on the previous governor and the team who were there before they issue such licenses to the banks, and as well as not monitoring the actual performance of the banks. Okay, so people should understand that once you are a professional, you need to act in a professional manner. You see, the politicians are very swift. And then, let me put it that way. So once they are in power and they've given you an opportunity to lead an institution, you should understand that you are working as a professional. And your professionalism should stand tall in whatever situation.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the first. And then the second issue about the reforms. I've worked before as a credit manager of a bank. One of the things I have observed is that Bank of Ghana should beef up their supervisory department. I'm telling you, they need to get a lot of people.
What are the lapses you think are there?
Look, in terms of the staff strength, look, I'm talking from experience where a BOG supervisories, visit your bank, and they are supposed to spend just 3 days. But within that 3 days, it becomes practically impossible for them to scrutinize almost all the reports submitted to BOG. Right, okay. So they pick on one or two, and once they realize, your first report, the second is on track, then they assume.
Then they're fine, and then they go away.
They need to move on to another bank because of the time spent. So I don't understand why a BOG, with all the resources available, should find it difficult to recruit more competent hands to help in that particular direction. If you can do that, all these issues will be corrected, and I think going forward we will not have such a difficulty. That is not to suggest that it may not occur, because in the human setup and the human institution,
well, that's a very easy excuse to say that, well, let's do it, but we know that it won't work. But anyway, let me come to you, Doc, and find out from you. Have you had any responses? I mean, has this created any sort of response from your membership? Are they complaining to you? What are they saying? Or is it,
No,
I mean, are they banking with different organizations?
Yeah, you see, this thing did not start today. We've gone through the mill and it's continuing. It started with the Unibank and then Capital Bank, and I think people are getting used to the system.
Okay, you think that's why the response has not been as panicky as it was
because
the last
people were
time this
even
happened.
anticipating that more banks will be loading.
Okay.
So that's why this thing have come. But then, prudent as traders are, don't forget that we've been there before, early 80s.
Okay.
The trading community, the so-called commoners and all that have their way of doing things. And they will surely have very serious options apart from the banks. And so they will be relaxed and then be thinking. But if care is not taken and we play with these things.
Okay. Let's come back to the calls for prosecution. Now, there are people who sat or supervise these banks into their destruction, or the destruction that we're seeing now. There have been several calls, and this morning on the Super Morning Show, for example, here on JoyNews, there are several people who are speaking and saying, you know, you can't just let these people go. After the government is going to put in this amount. That is you and I. That's money from you and I. We can't just sit around for people who have supervised over this rot, for example, to just go walk free. They're calling for prosecution. And I'll put up the pictures of them. We'll pull up that picture from myjoyonline.com for you to have a look at all 5 directors of the banks and the calls that they should be prosecuted. You've had the response from the Bank of Ghana, the lady that we just, whose sound we just played, saying that they're going to do the review and send the document or information, whatever information there is, to the appropriate state authorities. When you hear a response like that from the Bank of Ghana, indeed, people have said that they themselves should be sanctioned. I mean, when you hear comments or the response, the sort of response that we've heard from her, what sense does it give you, and what do you make of what should be done to these people?
Well, I'm not a lawyer. I may not understand the legal implications. But I think this is not the first time globally, even in the United States, when Obama took over administration in the United States, there was so much difficulty. Most of the banks were going through some difficulty and there was a bailout. But before then, I think somewhere 2001, 2002, there was a company called Aero, an oil marketing company in the United States, and there was a serious financial malfeasance where the auditors, after auditors, they manipulated figures a whole lot. At the end of the day, the American government looked at their own financial sector laws, they reviewed it, and they came out with the Sarbanes Act. And I think thereafter, most of the executives were sanctioned per the laws of the land, and then they were prosecuted accordingly. So borrowing or learning from that experience, I am of the view that, yes, we can equally do same, just to send a signal to people that if you have the opportunity to lead an institution as a director, as a manager, you don't do things on your own. You need to play the game according to the standard, according to the rules, according to the laws of the land. Okay, if we can do that, then I still serve as a deterrent for future managers of institutions, and then I think going forward, we are not likely to have the repeat of what we're experiencing now.
Okay, let me put up, let's have a look at the pictures of the directors there. Let me go through these names for you. Stephen Boji, he's with the Construction Bank. And we have Osei Asafweje, who is with Royal Bank, the director for Royal Bank. Then we have Dr. Dufour Jr., who is with the Unibank, the director for Unibank. John Reader, director for Sovereign Bank. Mike Nyinaku, who is the director for PIED Bank. For these 5 people, there have been calls that, you can't just let them off the hook. They will have to answer some questions. Doc, what do you say?
Yeah, I think we have to adopt some prudence, because I believe some of them are just employed as CEOs and all that. But as to how the bank SM was formed, is where they have to look at who registered even the bank. So I believe there's a serious institutional defect. In this case, Bank of Ghana has not worked. And then there might be some sort of connivance of the kind of huge withdrawals and all that. It cannot just happen. There is a connivance, and there should be sanctions for whoever was involved at that time of any transactions that happened. The criteria of registering banks and all that need to be looked at, and I think we need serious reforms.
What, for example, serious reforms like?
Yeah.
What do you suggest?
No, if I say reforms, probably my brother can even talk more, but we are talking about the processes of registering a bank and the monitoring thereof.
Okay.
If we do not have it, because we should build institutions, as everybody have been saying, our institutions are simply not working. And so we need a serious reform so that it cannot just be easy for somebody, just simple connivance. Because if you say that somebody was able to use a forged document and all that, it means that the system didn't even cross-check itself. We need a complete reforms at this place. Normally, people are saying that is the proliferation of many banks. That's not the issue.
You don't think that's
no, a problem? No. Normally, I don't want any measure that suppresses the trade of money. But for the monitoring of it, because if even the banks are 5, and then the monitoring is not enforced,
they will still come back to the same problem.
When you don't forget that the proliferation of many banks during 2000, that saw most of us growing. Okay. The banks competing.
So
with
for you as business people, when we have a lot of banks, it works for you because then I guess you get competitive interest rates, etc.
A bank that is worth being called a bank.
Lending rates as well works for you.
Exactly.
Okay, so you are all for allowing the banks to thrive, but there has to be monitoring.
Exactly.
Let's get on the grounds. As you are well aware, the Consolidated Bank now has open for business. Ebenezer Sabote is on the line with me right now. He has been to some offices of some of these banks. Ebenezer, what can you report?
Hi, Gifty. Currently, I'm at the Beige Bank East Legon branch, and here I can see that one or two customers came in and they were attended to by the staff of the bank. Before I got here, I went to the head office, which is at the airport city. And over there, I saw some management, the deputy MD of the bank with some officials of KPMG going into a meeting. Actually, I tried to have an interview with them, but they declined. So they entered into a meeting, and the meeting has been going on for, I can see, the past 3 hours. I don't know.
Who is meeting who?
The management of the bank and some officials of KPMG at the bank head office at airport. So right from there, I left to one of the branches here at East Legon, where some customers were attended to. But earlier, as I was there, when they came out, they were assuring the customers that their money are safe and they should continue to save with the bank. The bank is not going to be, Beige Bank again. It's going to be a Consolidated Bank, but this time around, very strong and with a solid, financial capacity.
I don't know if you've been able to speak to any of the customers who are coming in. You say 1 or 2. It tells me that it's not as busy. Is it that that's how that particular branch usually is, or is it that people can't be bothered?
It's not that busy. It looks like a normal office. I can even count the number of customers who came in there. They were numbered like about 8 or 6 years.
Right.
Because the place is not that busy, the staff of the bank were able to sit them down, and then they were having a chat with them, a normal chat with them, just assuring them that their funds are safe. I even tried speaking with one of them, but the staff would not allow me. They were saying that they want to serve their customers, so I should give them that space. So quickly I moved out from there, trying to speak with officials of the KPMG, and they also declined an interview with them, saying that they will issue a release as and when they are ready.
Right. Ebenezer, you've been to several other banks and you've been doing this since morning.
Yeah.
So what you can basically confirm is that there has not been there hasn't been anything like a panic,
there hasn't been
a drone of panic withdrawals, nothing like that.
No, I haven't seen any, because I went to more than 8 of banks since morning, and I even went to the Sovereign Bank head office, where very soon it will be the head office for the Ghana Consolidated Bank.
Okay.
But there too, the place has been calm. I can barely see any people, customer.
All right. Eben, thank you so much for the update. Ebenezer Sabote there has been combing around, trying to look at the branches, the various branches of the now Consolidated Bank Ghana. He's saying that really it's business as usual, if you like, even less business. People are just sitting at home, believing and trusting that their monies are safe with these banks, and basically that's it. I will come back and wrap up with the men I have here in the studio, but let me take you to Kumasi. Earlier this morning, we went round there as well. Have a look.
Closed. Customers came in early in the morning to try and transact business, but security men over there had to communicate to these customers that a bank will open at 1. Obviously, communication didn't go down to these customers who had come there to do business. And currently here at Unibank, it seems the communication is same, and a lot of customers since morning have been coming in to try and do business with the bank, but the same communication is being put out to them that it will open at 1 p.m. And so here in Kumasi, the situation is pretty the same, because customers continue to visit these banks to do one business or the other, but they are disappointed along the line.
I don't know. Yeah, I didn't get any person to explain anything to me. I met only the street woman, then she's telling me I should wait 1 o'clock.
So what are you doing now?
I have to leave now.
You're complaining you don't even have transport?
No. If I didn't get any bank to sort me out, I have to wait until the 1 o'clock.
Why?
Because I don't have any money to go back to the house, then tomorrow I'll come back. So I have to wait.
I was coming to take some money. That's when I came, they shut up. And I don't know.
You were not communicated to that this bank will open at 1?
No, that I don't know. I don't know about.
You didn't receive any text message?
No.
But are you aware that the bank has been taken over by
I got to know that yesterday. Yeah. I got to know that yesterday.
Well, in any case, it's positive to me, because I'm owing somebody and I'm supposed to come and deposit the money. I don't have any problem. Only I can't have a problem. So for me, it's a plus to me. For now.
I was coming to pick up a form this morning, but when I came, they said I should come in the afternoon at exactly 1.
What form is that? So it means you are not coming to transact financial business here?
Nah, I'm not coming to do any transaction. I was coming to pick up a training college form. So I don't know. I'm just hanging around till the time is due, then I'll come back.
Thank
you. Your company, UK Chemicals, you save. And now I'm telling you, but the name is Beer. Yen to Samri. But I am the hard to check no price. I call my friend director Bonamani.
Okay. Is that what affected?
Okay.
Saying I pass to affect business, is here much
yeah, normal crab. I have a bobe here, 3 o'clock. I'm going to the duty. Into me.
So the final customer says that he's got some things to clear at the port, and he needs to make some withdrawal so he can go clear his things at the port, but he's unable to do that. But let's find out from Prince Appiah once again, because it's past 1, right? Well, but 41 minutes past 3. The bank has been open, I'm sure. Prince, can you confirm that?
Yeah, Gifty, I can confirm that the banks have been opened and customers have been able to transact the business with the various banks. Then I should say that they are still going there in their numbers to transact business with the banks. Okay. Earlier, a lot of them had to wait until bank officials came to tell them to go and come back at 1 p.m. when the bank will open. So business have started.
Well, here in Accra, it's not been, we've not seen a lot of people trooping in to make any withdrawal or stuff like that. We've seen a few persons, a few customers going in and out. What is the situation in Kumasi?
Yeah, in Kumasi, pretty much the same. Not so many people. After in the morning, they had the explanation that the bank, things are well with the bank, your deposits are okay. So not so many people are coming in. After the time I was checking with the 3 banks that are available in Kumasi, few people are going there. And when they go, they are able to transact their business. They are able to take as much as they want to take. And most of them I spoke to tell me that they are not going to change banks. That was the speculation earlier. But earlier they had they were afraid that because of what is happening, their deposits will be affected. So they wanted to change their banks. But after they went into the banks and officials told them, they are okay and are going to keep their accounts with these banks that they are already doing business with. So over here in Kumasi, everything is full.
Prince, thank you so much. Prince appeared there with updates from Kumasi. Let me come back to my guest here in the studio and wrap up that conversation. Mr. Enim, once again, I'm coming to you. What would you like to see going forward, or what do you expect to see in the banking, in the finance sector going forward after what has happened?
Sure. I think going forward, Bank of Ghana should ensure that they supervise the commercial banks in a manner that will, expose any potential risks. And will equally advise potential banks that would like to, participate in the Ghanaian economy. And when they are coming, they should come clean. They shouldn't hide anything from the regulator.
But is that their call to make, or is it the regulator's call to make, or the regulator's job to ensure that these banks coming in are clean?
It is the responsibility of the regulator, but I'm equally calling on the potential banks too, that once you want to do business in our economy, come clean. That you don't create...
That's if they don't know that they should come clean in the first place. That's if it has to take a second party for them to know. Doc, that won't be your final word, but your final word on this particular matter. What will the business community, the trading community, want to see going forward dealing with issues like these?
We want effective control by Bank of Ghana. All this that we are talking is about control, and it is their mandate to do it. I don't believe in weak institutions and tinted with corruption, because without corruption, these things cannot happen. Because nobody can do this in isolation. No bank can register itself in isolation. So there's some sort of I think we need a complete overhaul of the whole system and all that, and make even if a system works, nothing even goes around it. You understand? And so we have to build a very good system, and then ensure of enforcement and monitoring.
Okay.
And that's all. That's
what the business people like you are expecting.
Otherwise, we don't. If you don't feel secured, then we have a way also, because business people we've been there before, early 80s and all that. And people knew how to use their money prudently apart from the banks.
Well, therefore, setting up a lot of banks, because then it gives them better lending rates, and then it helps their business. They're basically saying that it's about regulation rather than cutting down on the number of banks. So who are the new officials taking over the management of the Consolidated Bank? I'll give you that details, but let me just quickly let you know that I've been having this conversation with Amate Enim, who is a finance expert. He's with the Policy Initiative for Economic Development. He's been helping us with some analysis on the situation so far. So thank you so much for coming. And I've also been here with Dr. Joseph Obeng, who is president for the Ghana Union of Traders Association. He will stay with me a little longer, because we got to address the situation between the Nigerian spare parts dealers in Kumasi and Ghanaian spare parts dealers. But look at these details. That it actually contains information about who is taking over the banks that have been consolidated, so to speak.
The new head of the Consolidated Bank, Daniel Wilson Addo, was the former Deputy Managing Director of United Bank for Africa, and he was also appointed as Managing Director of UBA Tanzania. Daniel Addo was a pioneering staff of UBA Ghana, who assumed the role after 7 years of dedicated service to the bank. He was the first Ghanaian to assume the position of MD and CEO within the UBA group. Mr. Addo was also the former executive director of the First Atlantic Bank. He is a chartered accountant with 17 years post-qualification experience and a former member of the Technical and Research Committee of the Institute of Chartered Accountants Ghana. He has also served as a member of the Institute Task Force on Convergence to International Financial Reporting Standards. Daniel holds an MBA in Finance from the Manchester Business School, UK. Now here's a breakdown of the other executives who will take care of the other entities that make up the Consolidated Bank. Simon Donu, former MD of GCB, would manage Unibank. Alex Dodu would be the Consolidated Bank Director in Royal Bank as its MD. Madam Kesua Brown will be the Consolidated Bank's Director responsible for the Construction Bank. Babatunde Ampa would handle Beige Bank, and Reggie France would act as lead advisor for the Consolidated Bank. KPMG would also be acting as receivers for the new entity.
A little bit of information for you there about the Consolidated Bank of Ghana. You can get on my Joy Online for more information on that.